So good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maija Nygren. I'm the Head of Projects in Circular Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our webinar this morning, focusing on the Circular Edinburgh and the fashion and textile sectors. We've got a panel of interesting speakers for you today. Just to let you know a little bit about Circular Edinburgh, we launched in 2018. Our mission is to help the city become more circular, help companies embed circular economy thinking, and probably most importantly is help circular economy projects come to fruition. In the last few months, we've seen a real interest in getting against the fast fashion and actually looking at slow fashion and looking at circular economy projects. So we've got a couple of today that were really interesting projects to share with you. But first of all, I'm delighted to welcome our keynote speaker, Lynn Wilson from Lynn Wilson Associates, who will give us an overview about circular economy in the textile sector. So over to you, Lynn.
Thank you. So thanks so much to Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce and Circular Edinburgh for inviting me to talk to you today about circular fashion and textile trends. I've been working in the field of the circular economy for about 8 or 9 years, first at Zero Waste Scotland and then as a consultant researcher, which I am at the moment, based between Edinburgh and Glasgow University. I thought it would be good to share some tools with you for circular business thinking and planning, as I know that you're going to get some first-hand business experience from Maija and James, and so I'll do my best to set the scene. At Circular Design Scotland, we're a new company that aims to offer a material and resource supply subscription service for circular businesses. We'll be launching at the end of the year, and our aim is to put consumer knowledge at the centre of our advice and guidance to businesses on what materials and resources are needed to make a truly circular product. Whilst textiles and fashion are our primary knowledge base, we work across sector and aim to offer advice and guidance through an evolving library of sustainable materials. However, the circular economy cannot be materials alone, and we need the right systems in place to ensure those sustainable materials find their way back to source or are disposed of in the most environmentally sustainable way. We believe that there is such a thing as a circular citizen, and for every circular citizen, there is a business service to help businesses service them. But right now, we have a linear system, and it's really difficult to set up a truly circular business. But there are some things that we can do to make our businesses transition to ethical and transparent models. Many clients come to me and they want, say, an organic cotton jersey or other natural organic fibre. And there are several different initiatives working in this space that as textile and clothing businesses and consumers, we can look out for. So the Better Cotton Initiative is a sustainability programme that works with agriculture and global suppliers of sustainable cotton. Most farmers are chemical farmers if they have not originally set up as organic farmers. So it's really expensive and difficult to just change from being a non-chemically agri-cotton to an organic. But the Better Cotton Initiative helps growers transition, whereas the Global Organic Trading Standard ensures that if a product or a fibre, or textile says it is organic, that they have a standard that a business can follow to ensure that it gives customer assurance that the product is organic. From a textile perspective, we have Ecotex, and Standard 100 ensures that all textiles are chemical free if they have the standard on it. And again, that's a membership program, and it sets a standard. And I just wanted to say, in terms of standards and how they work and how they're policed, just for example, the Better Cotton Initiative has just stopped supporting Western China, for example, because of bad practice and examples of modern day slavery. And so they have stopped their process there. And you'll see some things like the Ecotex on, say, garments that you might have, or you'll see the BCI on your underwear for companies like John Lewis and M&S. But then if we move on to waste in garment manufacturing, in a traditional industry, it can be anything from as low as 5%, but up to as high as 40%. There is an average of between 18 to 25% in the industry. And whilst there is really interesting companies setting up who take this surplus waste and make it into a new product, the challenge we have there is that it creates a need for that waste, when actually what we want to do is design out waste. And so there are some fantastic new technologies. We already have full garment weave, digital weave technology. We've had whole garment knitting technology for the last 30 years. So there is technology there, but there are also design programs that are fantastic pioneers, such as Holly McQuillan and Timo Rissanen, who have produced books on zero waste garment design. Because at the moment, the global industry, the majority of waste will go to landfill or incineration, because it's just in their minds not a viable business model to collect that waste and reprocess it. And then from a sourcing perspective, made in Scotland for us is always our best brand. And even in our supply chain, it's about how can we access locally, regionally in the UK, and where we have to source internationally, it's about using our transparency in the supply chain to make sure our producers are as sustainable as possible. From a retail perspective, of course, we have the fair trade movement, but more importantly for employers, we have the living wage, and everyone should of course be aiming to pay minimum the living wage, which is £9.50 in the UK at the moment. SEDEX is the global membership body for the supply chain, and members commit to best practice in their respective industries, adhering to strict membership auditing. For example, in the UK, an area highlighted by SEDEX is the Modern Slavery Act, introduced to the UK in 2015. And we've seen recently how important that is when Leicestershire, the area of Leicestershire and the Leicestershire clothing industry was exposed as extensive practices of modern day slavery. So organisations like SEDEX, who are not just for the textile industry, but for the global manufacturing industry, are really important and interesting platforms to look at and potentially become members of. And so, but transitioning to the circular economy, I just thought I would share some of my life cycle assessment desk tools with you. And for me, it starts with saying, as a business, in terms of your design brief, what is the product for? Do I believe in this product? What are my company ethics, morals, and beliefs? Just because circular economy is trending or sustainability is trending, the last thing we need is greenwashing. And so it's about truly checking what it is that you want to do with your business, and are you committed to a circular model? And by committing to a circular model, we always put the end of life first when we are thinking about a business model. And I know that we have some fantastic examples that we're going to hear from. But by putting the end of life first, it's about where is the waste, where is the product at the end of life going to go? And to understand that, we need to understand what's the user going to do with our product? Who's it for? Is it for adults, is it for children? Is it for animals? And how do we do that? We know from consumer research is critical to new businesses. And we know that 5 qualitative research interviews are far richer than a massive quantitative research survey. So that's just something to bear in mind in terms of consumer research and development. Looking at traditional, are you looking at a traditional retail model? Is it rental, leasing? I'm going to go on and talk about rental in a moment. But then your carbon footprint. Scotland is all about reaching net zero by 2045. So how, by demonstrating this, can you be part of Scotland's transition, therefore accessing additional support for your business? And then where can you get it manufactured? Locally, nationally, internationally? What parts can you have done locally? What can you do internationally? And again, checking the ethics of the business. But really, as I will say probably till it's annoying, there's no point in having a 100% organic t-shirt if you don't know where it's going at the end of the day. If you're not sure if it's going for export and it's going to the other end of the world, it's not circular if you don't know what's going to happen to it. So circular business skills to transition. So if we look at resource management, so we're going to start by looking at the end of life of a product. So if we're looking at the end of life, we're looking at resource management. How do we avoid something ending up in landfill? How do we know the difference between waste to energy to landfill, the waste management hierarchy? How do we begin to think about and gain those skills in reuse, repurpose, recycling, all the 3 R's, in fact, up to 7 R's now. And again, reverse logistics skills, getting the consumer back in again. How do you identify people who really understand logistics, who really understand the back end of logistics? Often with textiles and fashion companies, it's very much about the marketing story. It's very much about getting the brand positioning. And then they go to set up the actual business model and the right skills aren't there. And so it's about identifying how you access those. And as I said, consumer behavior specialists, companies who really understand how that's done, a bit like myself, and how to develop your model based on consumer knowledge. And then the circular business model training. What does that look like? What kind of skills does your business need and what's missing? So have you done a skills audit from a circular economy perspective? And Zero Waste Scotland introduced a skills strategy in 2019. And so it's about engaging with Circular Edinburgh and engaging with that strategy and looking at what kind of training can we get as a business sector that will enable us to transition to a circular economy. Finance, for example, understanding the difference in a finance model for a circular model. I had some clients who found it really difficult to get a business loan to buy second-hand equipment. And so understanding the finance incentives and the finance barriers to potentially the model you want, but also financial accounting if you have a different model, such as a leasing or rental model, or you're going to develop a take-back scheme in your business. So then moving on to fashion trends. And so if the granddaddy of luxury mainstream starts a rental service, well, there must be a pot of gold at the end of the rental rainbow. What's interesting about the press statement from Ralph Lauren is the emphasis on what they will learn from the new service and refer to treating the process as an exercise in learning more about the consumers, as well as enabling the consumers to curate their own Lauren wardrobe collections. The UK clothing rental market is predicted to be worth 2.3 billion by 2029, according to global data. The fashion rental revolution says that 31% of customers in global data survey said they would rent a new product to try a new brand. Rental includes consignment services, subscription-based and peer-to-peer rental. And I know we have some rental models in the audience today. As an academic researcher, I focus on consumer behaviour and attitudes to contamination and hygiene, and why some consumers reject the idea of wearing clothing that has been worn by someone else. And we still have a lot to learn in this area, which is why anyone setting up a rental leasing model needs to undertake carefully considered consumer research. On the export market, in 2015, I visited Japan for a month to investigate circular fashion and textile models. In the main shopping areas in Ginza and Harajuku in Tokyo, fashion rental was already mainstream. In this Japanese example, we could trial one garment for approximately £8, or you could take out a monthly subscription. We also have a fantastic textile-related product export market to Japan, championed by Scottish Development International. Therefore, if there is an opportunity to identify rental models in Japan or to develop new international collaborations with existing partners that look at a rental model within the export space, rental garments need to be robust and fulfill key criteria. Just for example, every year there is the Harris Tweed bike race that cycles through Tokyo in homage to Harris Tweed. Therefore, for example, are there companies in Japan renting out Harris Tweed suits and accessories? Therefore, what's the potential partnerships and what is your client doing with the end product? I use Japan as an example, but selling to a rental market client may require adapting products in your business model that you produce now locally. And in my last slide, this is ACS clothing from Motherwell. And as mentioned earlier, rental business models require businesses to look at their service and supply chain in a different way. This is ACS Rental Services in Motherwell, who champion green cleaning for rental garments. They are one of the UK's leading UK rental service providers, and their business clients range from micro businesses to major online luxury brands, and they are open and welcoming business of all sizes at the moment. And their process uses a chemical-free ozone chamber to clean clothing, and they're committed to ensuring their business model in sight puts the circular economy at the centre of their business. And so if you're thinking about rental, that's a really great place to start having a discussion with ACS. And I'm just going to leave it there, and thank you so much for listening. And I'm really looking forward to listening to my fellow speakers today and to hearing your questions. And please do get in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. That was really interesting, especially the examples in Japan, that they were so forward thinking then, and in a way could Scotland follow suit. I know that when I had to go to an awards dinner about a year ago, just over a year ago, and I looked at a rental for kind of a ball gown, and there didn't seem to be very much in Edinburgh, considering, you know, that's kind of quite an appetite for that kind of high end, just to high. And the only option would be to hire one from London. I thought the carbon or the travel over from London wouldn't necessarily be worth it, so I just found a dress in my wardrobe. But it does show the interest and appetite for the different circular economy within the fashion and textiles industry. Now we've got two great speakers who are going to be our case study speakers, who are really going to give you an example of circular economy within their business and how they've set up their business. So I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, James Marshall from Tent, who's got some great products, and we'll share that with you. So over to you, James.
Hi, I'll just check. Can you hear me? Is the mic working?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Perfect. No worries. Right, I'll share the screen. Oh. Right. So, can you hear me okay? Yeah, all good? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, James.
Nice one. So I'll give you an introduction. So I'm James, and my company is 10T. Basically what we are, we're a streetwear brand that are making all of our products from upcycled and recycled materials. So I do this, and I also work in the sustainability team for a skincare company. And my background is I did a business management undergraduate degree, and then I did a master's in environmental sustainability. And then after my master's, when I chose to start 10T. So I'll just start the slides. So as I just said, so we're streetwear brands that are making all of our products from recycled or upcycled materials. We believe there's no need to take natural materials from our environment when there's an abundance of resources being thrown away every day. So I thought I'd just start by telling you a little about the stats that kind of influenced us to start this. So the United Kingdom produces about 206.5 tons of textile waste each year. Only 18% of that waste is reused or recycled. And 95% of textiles that go to landfill or are incinerated have the potential to be upcycled or recycled. And you can kind of see the graph in the corner there is a 50%, 57% goes to landfill and 25% going to incineration. So, you know, it's a big issue, and I kind of want to create something that sort of prevented this issue, really. So I basically saw it as an opportunity. You know, there's not many brands that are utilizing these waste streams, and I do believe the opportunities are endless to develop different types of products from different types of waste. It's all just about using a bit of creativity, a bit of innovation. So, and also people are interested in it as well. So, you know, a Draper's survey showed that 90% of customers are showing an interest in sustainable fashion, and it also showed that over 55% of customers are willing to pay more for a sustainable product. So it kind of influenced me to kind of, you know, start this. So that's how we kind of started the campsite collection, which was our first collection that we've done with 10T. And the stat that really made me do this was basically that in 2018, it was estimated that 250,000 tents were left at music festivals across the UK. And I can't, yeah, it's just like the image of 250,000 tents in my head is just massive. So it's a huge impact. So I kind of wanted to start off by doing something about that. So what we did to start was we contacted a charity called the Festival Waste Reclamation and Distribution Charity. So basically what these guys do is they go to the festivals after they finish, they collect all the working tents and they distribute them to refugees, homeless people, things like that. And what we asked them to do is we asked them to send us up some broken tents to see what we could do with them. So they sent us up a 5 boxes of broken tents. We were only expecting a few, but they sent us up 5 boxes, and we basically saw what we could do with it. And we realized quite quickly we could actually make some products with it. So after this, we contacted some festivals. I went down to a conference down in London and met up with the festival organizers. And basically there was lots of conversation about whose fault it is all these tents are left at festivals. And a lot of the organizers were actually blaming the tent manufacturers, which is actually really surprising to me, because in my opinion, it is definitely the festival's responsibility. You know, it's they're renting or they own the land and the tents goes on the land. I do believe that they should put something in place to make sure those tents are taken home. I don't know if a deposit scheme would be good, but I don't know, something. But anyway, the issue was there, so we decided to help the issue and do something about it. So our aim was basically to create stylish and functional products using the waste left at festivals. So I'm going to talk to you just a wee bit about the process of us doing that, and then I'll show you some of the products we've got on our website and we're selling at the moment. So the first section of this is obviously collecting the tents. So we went to Eden and Kendal Colin Festival and collected the tents ourselves. You can see me on the right there with my friend Duncan, who came and helped out. We actually filled that van at both festivals. I've got a short clip here that you can watch, and you can actually see what it was like at one of the festivals. That was Kendal Colin Festival there. You can just see it's crazy. I knew it was going to be bad, but you know, when you actually go and see it, like I reckon at that festival is potentially, it's an estimate, but there's at least 2,000 tents there. I think we took about just over 100 home that we filled the van up, but we didn't even touch the sides from that festival. You know, it was actually shocking. It was almost as if like people went to the festival for 3 days and just up and left their life for the past 3 days. It was really bad. So the next stage was obviously bringing those 300 tents back to. We did this in a barn. I basically had a trestle table and a Stanley knife. I've never loved a Stanley knife so much in my life. We started off with scissors, but it just didn't do the job quite right. So we actually used a Stanley knife. We basically obviously dissected it into sort of main areas. It was the ground sheets, the guy ropes, the actual tent zips, and then the tent material itself. We didn't actually wash it first, so to be honest with you, it was quite a messy job. It's because we wanted to do that first and then put it through the washing machine, because I thought it'd be a wee bit harder if we did it after it washed. Trying to stick like full tents into the washing machine, it was easier to wash them separately. So we put them through the wash with a thing called tech wash, Nick wax. I don't know if you're an outdoors person, you know what that is. It basically reproofs the material, keeps it waterproof. And then once it came out of the wash, the only thing we didn't actually put in the wash was the ground sheets, because it was a material so a bit thicker. The actual tent material itself is usually a bit of PET sort of nylon kind of mix, so it was easy kind of wash as long as we reproofed it. But the ground sheets was a wee bit harder to wash. We did that by hand with the hoses. And we basically sorted the material. So there's a picture of us sorting out the material. We did it all by colour, separated it all. And, you know, this is when it started getting a wee bit more exciting. You know, you're starting to imagine the products you can make, sort of bringing that to life and different segments. And then the next stages, this is obviously the sort of standard stages for making a product now. So it was the design stage. So I had help from Imogen, our designer, who's been absolutely amazing. She kind of brought the ideas to life. And we designed the different products. We first of all started off by designing the jacket made from the tents. And then we wanted to use the offcut. So we designed some accessories as well, which I'll show you in some slides that are going to be coming up. And then obviously the next stage was the pattern cutting. So for the accessories, I do the pattern cut myself, and then I pass it on to seamstresses and they'll sew it up. But with the jackets, it's a wee bit too complex for me. So They do the, I've got a small batch manufacturer based in Glasgow that do the pattern cutting for the jackets and also manufacture them for us. And then obviously the final stage is the sewing stage. So I'll talk to you now a wee bit about our product. So first product is the jackets, which you can see here. So we've got, these are a couple of jackets, the cow print, which was a very popular one. So these jackets are basically 100% of this is basically made of the tents, apart from the elastic that we used in the cuff and the stitching themselves. So you can actually see the zips from the tents on the jackets. Also the guy ropes are used to tighten the bottom of the jackets. So we double lined these jackets with tent material, and we quickly realized that maybe this probably wasn't the best decision. So we've actually changing it up at the moment to bring in a sort of recycled ripstop or a recycled PET lining, just because it adds a bit more comfort. And then we've got the duffel bags. So the outside of these duffel bags are again made from the tent material, and then we lined the inside with the ground sheets. And on the outside, we've used an RPET, so recycled plastic bottle straps. And we even used I don't know if you can see on the black duffel bag there, you can see in the corners, we used the bit where you actually put the pegs in on the tent, the wee plastic that have got wee holes in it. So we stitched them on and basically just tried to utilize as much of the tent as possible in the products, you know. And I think we've done it with those quite nicely. And then we've also got the accessories. So we've got the bum bags there. So they're double lined with tent material. We use the zips again. We've got an RPET strap and the buckle. It's not actually recycled. We're going to be looking into that. And then we've got the bucket hat there. Again, it's double lined with the tents, and we've got the guy ropes. So actually, for all the accessories, I cut the patterns myself, and we've got a seamstress that actually makes that in Edinburgh, and also our designer Imi. She makes some of the products for us as well. So linking the product source. So I thought it'd be a good idea, especially because they've come from festivals, it'd be a good idea to show the customer where the sort of products had come from. So what we did is we, in our thank you note to our customers, whenever they purchase a product from us, we sticked in, it's basically a QR code. So if you scan it, it takes you to a playlist, and the playlist plays all the music from the festival that we collected that tent from. So it's kind of like the idea of, you know, someone wearing one of the jackets we collected from the festival, also listening to all the songs that was played there. And it's also given that kind of emotional connection and sort of telling the story of that, the material's kind of previous life that we wanted to include. So we're also, as well as the campsite collection, we've got that. We're also, part of our business is sort of collaborating with some businesses. So recently we have worked with Kitesurf Scotland. They basically had a couple of kites that they weren't using anymore, and they asked us to make a custom beanbag for them. And I think this is a video, yeah, where you can see what we did with this. That was our first reel. I was quite impressed with it. Yeah, so there was a beanbag we made for them. We also collaborated with our record label up in Dundee, and basically made some record bags, which you can see on the right there, for them. And some key points, I think, like if you're interested in using waste or you already are using waste, this is just some pointers that I've realized doing this that might help. So to ensure a constant supply of the material that you're using. So we obviously used festival tents, and obviously COVID hit, so it's like where we're going to get supply of tents for. But luckily we had a good bit of press after we launched, and we were reached out to by Vango, the tent manufacturers in Scotland, and they basically said that they could supply us with a pallet of tents a week if we needed to. So we've got that constant supply there, even if the festival tents run out. Again, it's to ensure the functionality matches similar products made from virgin materials. I think this is something we quickly realized when we were making the products. We had one layer of tents for the jackets, you know, the functionality wasn't there. So it's about, and it's also why we're bringing in the recycled ripstop or recycled PET for the lining for the jackets, is to sort of improve the functionality and making it a wee bit more comfortable. And then the next point is design is key. We had Imi, she was awesome to work with. And it's about making the designs appeal to, you know, your target market. We've got a younger target market. We've got some awesome colored tents, and it's about mixing and matching them and making it appealing. And then it's also streamlining the material sorting process, as this is where the costs add up. you know, like when I first started, a lot of people say, oh, it's great, you're getting free material, it must be so cheap or whatever to make. It's definitely not the case. You know, when you add up the amount of time you've spent dismantling all the tents, washing, sorting it, and then cutting the process, like it adds up definitely more than what it would cost for some virgin materials to be made. So, you know, it's just something to focus on streamlining. We're like focusing on like some different pattern cutting styles, so we can cut more patterns at once to sort of streamline that process. And then next is, so those products I talked about aren't actually circular, but we do have a circular product in the works. So they aren't circular, obviously, because there is going to be an end of life, sadly, but we are extending the life of the material. So we're actually prototyping at the moment with a manufacturer based in Portugal to bring out a circular t-shirt. So it's a heavyweight, oversized unisex t-shirt. And as Lynn kind of was talking about, sort of the buyback scheme is what we're aiming to do with this, not buyback, but sort of send back scheme. It's just, we need to trial it out first, but basically it's a 50% organic cotton, 50% recycled cotton t-shirt. It's obviously built to kind of last long, and we're aiming to design it to be recycled. So we're in communication with a couple of recycling facilities that recycle cotton back into yarn. And the aim for this t-shirt is, so people can buy the t-shirt, they can wear it, and when it comes to its end of life, if it rips or gets a stain, they can send it back to us, and then we can send it to the recycling facility, ensure it gets recycled, and we can give them a discount off their next purchase. It's something that we've spent a lot of time researching and looking into, because we didn't just want to launch a t-shirt that's made from, I mean, the issue is that a lot of t-shirts that are coming out, you know, they're a mix of like RPT and cotton and stuff like that, but the issue with that is they struggle to get recycled. There's going to be an end of life, because as far as I'm aware, there's no technology that can split up the different textile materials to recycle it. So it's better to stick with one material or 100% cotton, so you can ensure the sort of recyclability of it. So that's kind of what we're up. And I thought I'd just put in a bit about past achievements, a wee bit of a flex. So we were part of the Red Bull Amafico Academy, which was 14 social entrepreneurs got picked in the UK to be part of, and we met some great contacts, and it was a great experience. And we also did London Fashion Week last year. We were sponsored by Absolute Vodka to do London Fashion Week with some of our products. And we won some awards last year as well, Business for Good, Bright Ideas Moonshot Awards, and we were also picked from our university to be on the Santander Emerging Entrepreneurship Programme, which was also a great experience. And then we've got some press, we've featured it at the bottom there. So I think, yeah, so these are some of the pictures at London Fashion Week. To be honest, this was a really proud moment. We literally took materials that had no value, was seen as waste, that just usually get chucked to landfill, or they get incinerated, and only a small percentage obviously gets reused. But we took it to London Fashion Week, and we received some great feedback from it, and we gave it value. So it was a great kind of journey to get there, but it was quite exciting as well. So the future, so we've already saved, like if you use the average tent, 300 tents, average tent about 4 meters of material going. We've saved about 1,200 meters of material from going to landfill or incineration, and we'll continue to prevent more materials from heading there. We're all about partnerships, and collaborations are key, even to working on that t-shirt we're working on with another couple of brands. I think this is the key for small micro businesses like ours, and people doing this kind of same thing. It's all about working together, because we've all got small voices, but working together and sharing knowledge on these type of things just sort of creates a bigger voice, especially when all these big brands are greenwashing and things like that. It's better for us to stick together and work together. And finally, it's continue being creative and innovating. It's an exciting space to work in. I think if you're wanting to bring out products made from waste, it does take a lot of development, a lot of time to get there, but it is really exciting. And if you are a creative and innovative mind, then you will get there, and it is fun. And I think that is everything. So thanks for listening. I've got my email there, website, and the social handles. If you guys are interested in offering some advice to me, or you want some advice about my journey and my story, then please reach out to us. And also, if you're interested in collaborating or anything like that, then give us a shout. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, James. That's great. We've got lots of comments and chats how cool the products are and how wonderful they are. One person saying, how do you have to be young to wear products? And I think, no, you could be any age.
Yeah.
You've got your website, and as I said, we'll share your presentation and the contact details. But I said lots of great comments about your design. And also, I think the partnership and collaboration is key. I think especially within Scotland and focus on circular economy sustainability, I think it's really key to work with others, and also in Europe. So it's fantastic to see. We'll keep an eye on all your products. I'm definitely looking to one of the jackets. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for that. I'm delighted to introduce our next case study speaker, which is Maija Nygren from Almaborealis. Over to you, Maija. She will be our next speaker.
Thank you, Maija. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. I'll try and get through this with my voice. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, James, for your brilliant talks. What I'm going to do is hopefully I'm sharing my screen now. Is that all visible?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm just going to share my journey as a designer and as a founder of a micro company, and within the realm of circular economy and children's fashion. I'll be mainly talking about the concept and how we came about with it. So my company is Almaborealis, and I wanted to open with this quote: "A society grows great when old men," and I've added in there women, "plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit." And I feel like this really this speaks to me from that circular economy point of view, where we as adults, as the kind of leaders of this society, should plant these systems for the future generations that are sustainable. The company, Almaborealis, is a kidswear research lab, as I see it, based in Edinburgh, founded by myself, a knitwear designer, that's my background, and we were founded in 2018, so we're still very new, finding our ways in many ways. And why I set up this company was to explore solutions to extend longevity in children's fashion and textiles, and also to raise awareness and conversation about the clothes making methods and use, because I feel like they're very much linked. Let me see if I can play this little snippet. Oh, I've got all the people in front of my control panel. So just I realized that there's a real lack of awareness of where clothes come from and where they go across generations, as well as a loss in craft skills. There's very few school curriculums who support craft sewing or woodwork, and I noticed that in my 7-year-old, she's now at primary 3, and I just realized recently, randomly, she sews at home with me, but I realized that she hasn't had a single class in the most basic of stitching. And it wasn't the case when I was growing up, and I feel like that the lack of awareness of these basic skills leads to a lack of understanding of caring for clothing and understanding the impact they have on the environment. And really importantly, this question of why should we make things if we can buy things so cheaply? So I think that's a fundamental challenge in creating a sustainable textile fashion environment. So as a company, our challenge was to create the most environmentally friendly, long-lasting and meaningful knitwear for children, and also to involve the welfare of the future generation within that design brief that we do. So, and I wanted to clarify here, meaningful. I'm sure that has got lots of different meaning for everybody, and for us, for me as a designer, it means embedding a reason at the design stage that could encourage the user to keep the garment for longer. So there's, particularly from a children's clothing perspective, there's a lot that one can play with. So what we offer is learning through clothing. We offer a service, craft and circular economy clothing workshops, and a product range, circular economy and meaningful garment model. And I'm just going to talk you through the service model briefly first, and then I will concentrate on the product. So we do workshops in knitting machine skills. We teach children and adults, mainly at the moment, how to knit their own scarf. So we take these portable knitting machines across wherever really, and get children and adults to design their own scarf, design the colorway and the pattern combination that they want to use. And then within an hour, they have a scarf that they've knitted using their elbow power. And there's a magic that happens. There's that when the child, particularly, well, no, both adults and children find the whole process. There is a magic in there when they hold that piece that they have just knitted. They see it developing through the design process, and then they hold that piece that they've made. Their eyes light up, and I realized by doing these workshops what potential it has to get people back into making, because we can create these emotional connections with clothing, and I believe that by creating this bond, we can allow the garments that we use will last longer. The other workshops that we do this is our recent edition in collaboration with the Edinburgh Remakery, knit with what you got. And this idea came out through lockdown, where I felt that if people wanted to start knitting and they didn't have any knitting needles or wool, or didn't want to invest in those, that shouldn't be a barrier. So by using pencils and cut up old clothes, they equally result to a wearable garment. So in this garment on the right hand side, there's probably, I think there's about 7 pairs of my daughter's old tights, and a pair of a nightie, and yeah, no, I think that's about it. So this is what we're taking. We turned this into an online course with the Remakery, which is really exciting. So then our product range, that was sort of started during my master's degree at Heriot-Watt University, and I started to explore the possibilities of merging early childhood theories and knitwear. So I started to look at Montessori and Froebel, and how through their tactile sensory materials we could engage the user better with their garment. So I created a collection of very tactile and textural knitwear, but I came to realize that I knitted these to size. So if I think I was saying that bells and whistles are great, but they're sort of invalid if the child grows out of them. So it's lovely to have all these textures and rich sort of interactive features, but then children do grow. So I felt that was the challenge that I still needed to sort of, that was the nut that I needed to crack. And I decided to get the children more involved, and I sort of upped the challenge in the design brief, and I thought, could I create something where children could make their own clothes? And with this, I tick various of those boxes that I wanted to tick, and from an educational as well as from an environmental point of view. So the convertible clothing project was born, and this is a children's clothing project designed with a circular life cycle. It's designed to be kept for a long time, and it encourages participatory experiences. And then how to get that piece of clothing last longer on a child's growing body. Here, I hope you can see it, it might be a bit blurry. I will go into this in more detail. The life spiral of the convertible garment, it starts, so we use, what I will do is I'll actually just go straight into these. So the materials that we use at the moment it's 100% wool, and I believe that wool lends itself well for circular economy, as it can be infinitely recycled and reused, repaired, and as it is biodegradable, it won't contribute to the microplastic pollution. We are currently using virgin materials, which we are trying to veer away from, but there is a challenge of getting recycled wool for knitwear, as it is often combined with a polyester to strengthen it. and by using a blended yarn, it proves to be difficult, as James mentioned, to be recycled again. So having 100% pure consistency of your prime material is easier further along the line when you're thinking about the end of the life or the continuation of the product. So, and then to the construction of the garment, these are modular. So I broke a piece of, I thought I'm just going to break apart into a puzzle-like structure, a garment, and then offer this as a kit for children to assemble themselves. So through this, it can be extended infinitely by adding on more panels. The child can, with the help of the parent and with the purse of the parent, can order new panels as they grow, and they can sew on these pieces, as well as modify the style, the silhouette, and the look of the garment. Because the garment is modular, these panel pieces can be taken, say if the elbow panel got worn through, it could be taken out and a new one could be bought. So it is infinitely repairable. By assembling their own clothing, children are using these tactile and sensory rich tools. We've got some custom made wooden blunt needles that the children can use, and a chunky yarn. So the convertibles clothing provides a sensory experience that also allows the child to practice their fine motoric skills, hand-eye coordination, creative thinking, as well as problem-solving skills. And these are all really fundamental life skills that can help their learning and in the future. So the garment can be personalized through the growth of the child. So we can start off with the basic T-top, and these are the panels for that you would need to just have the most basic garment, really, that exists, maybe not, but and then as you grow, you can add on extensions onto the waist as well as to the arms. You can add a neck of your choice, and then you can take it down to two routes. You can either take it to a jumper form, or you can take it to a dress form, and these, through the kind of interchangeable nature of these modular panels, these could be taken from boy styles to girl styles or vice versa. It's unisex, and each child could create their own unique combination of these panels as they wish. Then repair patches. We thought I thought that repairing clothing, repaired clothing has often sort of become, if you repair a piece of clothing, it becomes secondary in value. But we thought we'd just flip it around and see the repair patches as sort of medals of adventures. So as you go through your childhood and roll about on your adventures, you will gain these medals when you get a rip or a tear. So this also adds to the customization and the personalization of the product, and in turn tightens that bond between the user and the garment. The repair patches can also become practical elements to enrich the product functionalities, such as a treasure pocket, which is highly useful for any child on their adventures. And the end of life, really, as the yarns that we use, the materials that we use are biodegradable, this would decompose. The garment would decompose should it reach that stage where it's no longer wanted in any form. But to add to the kind of personal adventure with the garment, we thought it would be really suiting that once the convertible's garment has been thoroughly worn through and it's become unrepairable and unusable. It could be felted in a hot wash, say with sheets, and then cut into a soft toy or a cushion and stuffed with itself. So no residue is left of the garment anywhere in that child's future life, except this memorabilia that contains all these memories of the child's adventures with the garment. So this concept really, to conclude, we realized that by getting children to know, by getting children to interact with clothing, they will, their material knowledge will increase, their processes knowledge will increase, they will understand how things are made. And these will connect them to the wider world, which will allow them to understand really how the world works. And as Jamie Oliver introduced children to this concept of where food comes from, I believe that there's a real need to introduce children to this concept of where clothes come and how they are made, and what impact this industry, and that not just the industry, but our own clothing decisions have on their future environment. So I mentioned this already about dexterity, creative thinking, hand-eye coordination, and problem solving. So these all come together within the convertible garment. And I believe that, oh, there should be one more slide. There it is. So we as a company are commercializing the convertibles clothing range at the moment, and we start the product range from just the simplest sewing kits, so the child can practice really simple basic stitches that then they can take on and use in other projects, as well as a complete garment range, and we are looking to take the concept also to museum settings and early learning centers to make it the most accessible to as many as possible. And my contact details are here, and thank you for listening.
That's great. Thanks so much, Maija. Sorry, I can't now see everybody. Something's happened to my laptop, so apologies. Got some comments. Oh, here we are. I can see everybody now. We've got some comments about great vision, and it's great to have the children involved, Maija. So just some comments about your presentation. We've got some time for questions now. I don't know if people want to unmute and just put your hand up, or do you want to have it in the chat? I know there's a couple of people that asked when we'd have time for questions. So we've now got some time for questions from our panel, for James, for Maija, for Lynn. Is there any questions for the panel? Anybody have any questions? I'll have a look at the chat box. I think everybody's just loving the vision, but there's not any specific questions. So,
hi.
Hi, Lisa.
How's it going? A great job presenting, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to know personally, for each of your experiences, what would be the biggest bottleneck to the circular economy, in your opinion?
Okay, Lynn first. Let's just go in order. What do you think the biggest bottleneck for the circular economy?
Skills and a joined up supply chain. So as I said, people are really interested in the shiny, exciting fashion end of it. We don't have enough. I love the joining up like James has of the design, the business, the creativity, and the vision together. And what I see is that that isn't there yet. So that's the biggest challenge: skills and joining up. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Lynn. What about you, James? What are your thoughts about that question?
Sorry, can I just clarify? Does bottleneck mean constraint?
Stops the circular economy. Is that right, Lisa? Maybe you want to.
Yes. Yeah. The biggest constraint, or like, imagine the ecosystem as it currently is. You're working with them. There's like two sides of it. There's the consumer side, and then there's the like manufacturing side where everybody works together. I think, you know, it's up to everybody. On the consumer side, it could be awareness is a bottleneck because they don't know what the life cycle is of the clothing, where it happens to it. At the manufacturer side, it could be that they just can't get virgin materials, or sorry, it's easier to get virgin materials and recycling materials, so they prefer using that. I don't know, in your opinion, it could be applicable to your business, or and also bottleneck can be applicable to in the world of operations.
Yeah, okay, got you. Okay, no, I think I've got you. I would say that I think that definitely manufacturing is one of the biggest issues. Like what we found, like a lot of what we make, for example, I'm cutting the patterns and send them to a seamstress and they make them in-house, but then also the jackets get made, but it's also a much longer process, and the state the material comes in is a lot different to using virgin materials and a lot harder. I also think one of the biggest issues is there's a lot of greenwashing from large brands and companies, and I think that the people making the real difference, as I mentioned briefly in my slides, are the kind of smaller companies, and the only ones. I think it could be just because there's not been that jump to getting the processes and operations right for these businesses to actually adopt models like what I'm doing. I feel like scaling it up is an issue. I think the operations process, like as I say, the material sorting process is such a challenge because it's so fresh and new, and each material is completely different. So all the waste I would say is probably the biggest one, to actually scaling it up and it becoming, commercialized or being sort of adopted by these sort of big companies.
Thanks, James. What about you, Maija? What would you say? What do you?
I think that it would be the cost in the cost of the products for the consumer, because they would, to use high quality materials that endure through a long lifetime, the cost is going to be higher. And I think, like James mentioned, the greenwashing, I think if big corporations are pushing this false agenda of circular economy at really low prices, that's going to really distort the actual reality of these products, or the real cost of the products. I think Lee Edelcourt, a trend forecaster, recently said that how is it possible that a piece of clothing costs less than a sandwich? And I think that I think the challenge is to educate the consumer on the true cost of products across the industries. I think that is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, Lisa, I totally agree. I echo what Maija was saying. I think it's perception. I don't know about you, but I've got colleagues and they could come in and say, look, I got this for £3 from Primark, and they're proud of it. And it's like, no, actually, if it's costing that little, then people getting paid properly, is it produced properly? As Maija said, to produce circular economy products, and the design should be a quality product they use over and over again. And this is probably showing age, but 20 years ago, that's what people did. It's that throwing away. And it's from the manufacturers because they want you to keep on buying, but it's also the attitudes. I think things are changing now. A lot of young people, and as they're going, I actually don't want that, and they're changing that perception. But it is about perception, how much you're willing to pay for a product. I think that is also key.
Sorry, Maija, can I just come in there? Hi, thanks. As a consumer behaviour researcher, I do remember getting completely denigrated, and there is one key challenge from an academic perspective, and that is that we don't understand enough about what consumers are doing with their clothing and what they want to do. And that is where there is a complete disconnect with the industry, because we keep producing product because we want to create a business, or we see an opening without really understanding where there is a need. So for example, on the 29th of June last year, when I went up to Princes Street, I went to see Primark reopening, and I went to understand what was going on with consumer. And I thought it was a barrage of fashionistas desperate to get in. And what I met, the police who were standing, gentlemen who couldn't wait to get in because he had 3 kids and he just couldn't afford to buy clothing anymore from Sainsbury's, which was the only store opening for children's clothing at that time, and Primark were undercutting Sainsbury's. But he didn't have a choice. He wasn't educated, you're right, but we don't really take enough time and enough research to really understand. For me personally, this issue is still a middle class issue. It is still, particularly in textiles and clothing, and understanding the business model. we're very good at the blame game. It's the consumer's fault, it's the producer's fault, when actually we don't have enough evidence to really understand what's going on. We do have enough evidence at the back end to understand the poverty in the international sphere, and we have the fantastic campaigners like Fashion Revolution, but we don't understand how that translates to our local communities and what's happening in our local communities, and why products that at that cost, a t-shirt at $1.99 and a Big Mac at $1.99, what is that connection in consumer behaviour? And sorry, I'm just a wee bit challenged with, as you called it, Lisa, a bottleneck. James, I can't remember the term you used, but that is the bottleneck for me, exactly on the head, the blame game. And to get out of that blame game, we need more research and understanding. Sorry, a bit of a rant there.
We need to have that research of knowing what customers want and what they're willing to pay, and that's that cycle. And you're right, it's not a blame game. I think we all have to make changes, and it's not one person over another. But it's just interesting to see, especially in textiles, how that is. And Lynn, I know, is going to have quite a lot of research, so hopefully we'll get some really good data in the next kind of few months. So thanks for that. Do we have any other questions or any other issues that people want to ask our panel? Anybody else have any? As it either unmute and ask a question or put it in the chat box. Do we have anybody?
Hi, I just wanted to say thanks so much. It's been really interesting hearing from everyone this morning, pretty much on my absolute favourite topic as well. And just to hear a little bit more about James's company and Maija's beautiful company as well, and to hear from Lynn on your continuing fabulous research. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Vivian. That's lovely. I think, Joe, you had a question, so I'll go over to you.
Well, it's not so much a question, it's sort of like something to say to Lynn. You're kind of mentioning, you're saying sort of like, we don't know what's going on in communities. Well, I'm a community worker, a retired community worker. And I set up a project to see me into retirement called Rebellious Threads. And it was just at the time that the best idea I've had in my life at the worst possible time, lockdown kicks in, and it's a social project, so it stopped me in my tracks. But what I'm wanting to do is to work in the community where I live across all of these issues that we've been discussing this morning, to how you get people to understand what their clothing is, where it comes from, why it's a problem, to give them the skills to be able to remake garments. And you know what James is saying, this thing about you get this raw material, what can we do with pairs of jeans? The possibilities are endless, but it takes so long to prepare them. You make a wonderful, unique garment each time because no two pairs of jeans are the same. But so I'm trying to find these kind of connections of changing people's minds, their attitudes, their behaviors, working at this very grassroots level, but across all of these connections, going into schools, teaching kids to make things, with parents, changing their attitudes about, oh, I'll get my kids secondhand clothes, but I wouldn't go to the charity shop. So I'd be really interested to pick up this idea of research. I'm just about to go into the primary school and work with the kids in the primary school and a project called Media Education to do this very thing about getting them to do the research in their families about where my clothes come from and where do they go to. So if you need some unpaid researchers, we're on standby.
Thanks, Joe. I'm sure Lynn would be happy to, wouldn't you, Lynn? Over to you, Lynn.
Yeah, no, I'd be delighted. And I just wanted to explain a wee bit more about, if I can take the liberty, sorry, is that it's really interesting. So for example, like a product like James's, which is really dirty, filthy when you get it, and then you completely refurbish it. And what we're trying to understand is, so my research is all about contamination and hygiene. And when I was looking for communities for because it's qualitative research, I was looking for participants. And what I ended up with is a fabulous group of participants who are all middle class, upper class from the city. When I tried to reach out to communities in areas of less social community groups, they were delighted if I wanted to talk to communities about fashion. But if I wanted to talk to communities about what they were doing with fashion, and at the end of the fashion cycle, it was taboo. It's not acceptable, because once you start talking to people about these very sensitive and intimate things, then into social judgment and the social disconnect in communities. So there is a real, I'd love to talk to you more about it, Joe, and I have a good few new projects, research projects, and I also, as Maija said, I will be presenting my research at the end of the year, and I do large public workshops on this.
Yeah, Joe, did you want to come in again? Because I said I'll connect you both. I think it'd be great, to work together. Because I said Lynn's doing a lot of research, and I think that's the thing. You want a lot of the data. Joe, you're talking about jeans. Andrew, I'm going to come over to you because Andrew's got a business which is focusing very much on trying to do the life cycle of or the length of jeans. So Andrew, I might just give you a quick 2 minutes to just talk about your business, if that's okay, just because I think it's quite
Thanks, Maija. Listening in, very interesting. I was actually going to say to Joe, yes, we're taking denim, much the same as James, I guess, in Tents, is we're taking the denim end of life that's got the holes people can't use, stains, etc., and that would be landfill. So we're taking that, saving it, and partly the process is it's going to be the problem about circular economy and everything to do with that is people don't engage because it's all numbers, it's all spreadsheets, and it's mainly business to business. So we're focusing mainly on the consumer, or we're looking at it more people to people. And the more you engage people with the idea behind why you're saving denim, the more that you can promote the idea of circular economy and saving clothes from just getting chucked. We've got a school across the road now, things are opening up. We're going to talk to them about, as Joe was saying, is getting into the school, talking, they've got a textile project, getting into the school, talking to them, again, the community, talking about the reason for saving clothes, the reason for mending, repairing, keeping the life cycle going. I've got a meeting tomorrow where we're going to be talking about the circular economy, and we've worked on basically a fairly massive kind of master plan, spider's web of how you can embed circular economy in all aspects, and how you can save, just textiles, but how you can save, recycle, and have the 4-point plan of keeping as much in the system as possible, including how to access, as Lynn was saying, the kind of lower end of people who maybe can't afford, because clothing is quite a social, a class system. Like my problem with the rental model at the moment is that you're almost taking companies like myself, like Maija and James, and pushing them out a little bit, because you're devaluing the work by continually accessing very expensive clothes at a cheap cost, and the penalty that you have for damaging is immense. And ozone doesn't clean, it just basically blasts the surface of smells. So that's my problem with that. So there's a lot of challenges there with fashion, and unfortunately greenwashing is everywhere, and the narrative is getting run by the businesses, the big businesses still. Sorry, that's me.
Thanks, and I just wanted to talk about, because I know it's people talk about rental, and I think the rental models. I know there's one for jeans in somewhere like I think Amsterdam.
Yeah, Mud.
An event, and I was quite interested to say, but their actual rental options are very, very limited. So it's similar to Levi's, is about 6 pairs, and it's actually quite expensive. So as Lynn was saying, it's also about the cost and what people can afford. So I think what is really interesting is the fact that even in lockdown, we find, myself and Lauren and the team, that actually textile and circular economy projects has probably been the biggest sector that's thriving through lockdown. So it shows the interest in textiles and fashion waste, what people are actually willing to do. And it shows all these companies on this here what they want to do, which is great, because it's actually it takes a lot of challenge, and I think we just don't devalue that expertise that you all have. I realize we've gone into sort of discussion mode, but is there any other questions for the panel? Anybody want to raise any points or ask any discussion? We've actually done quite well on time, so we've got a little bit more time than normal because our speakers went through it. So is there anything else people want to add? Because I know we've got a lot of different sort of textile businesses, so if there's anything, we've got a couple of people had to just drop off, but they said great debate, and thank you for the presentations. Anybody else want to ask any of our speakers or discussions before we wrap up?
Maija, I have one.
Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Ridgely. I'm part of the Circular Economy team, but I thought I wanted to ask a question to all the panelists. Is what is the one piece of advice or one top tip you would give to a textile company who are interested in starting to engage with circular economy and start to embed circular practices within their business model?
So I'll go to Lynn first. We'll just go in the order that you've spoken to, I think. So over to you, Lynn, and then we'll go to our other speakers. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I think it is about, and I know the Chamber, it's about finding a really good business tool to really map out what it is that you want to do and to be really sure that you do want a circular business model. If you already have a linear model, it is really, as we've discussed today, it's really expensive and costly to transition to circular. And so sometimes it's about thinking about what are the steps I can take in my business towards circular, like accreditation schemes, like transparency in the supply chain, telling your story and getting your story right, and fighting against greenwashing at a micro level. But yeah, it's about small changes, but I think it's really mapping out a business model and making sure that that's the journey that you want to go on. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. What about you, James?
I don't know, I imagine a textile company might have a bit more knowledge on some textiles than I do, but I can give some advice if they're wanting to use waste, I suppose. But I suppose I would just say, like, if you spot a waste stream or you see an opportunity, just give it a shot. I think get the material and get a sample of the material and see what you can make with it. I think the whole process has taught me, like, when you first start making something, it's a bit of a challenge. Like when we got the tents and we started to make designs, and we started to make them, we thought, yeah, this is going to be okay. But then the most important thing is then streamlining that process afterwards. I think at the start, when you're just making a couple of products, it's very easy to think it's going to go okay, but there's a lot of work after that to actually make it work properly, especially if you're going to use wasted materials, for sure.
That's great. Thanks, James. What about you, Maija? What
advice? Well, I think for, like, as Lynn said, for an established textile manufacturer or a company, it will be quite a shift to dramatically change into circular economy. I think it's sort of easy for myself or for James perhaps to speak about embedding these circular economy principles from the word go. I think it's a really exciting place to be, and I can understand and appreciate all the challenges that there are for existing companies who have been operating in that particular linear way for however many years. And I think is to keep an open mind and look under all the rocks and crevices for ideas and innovation and ask for advice. And I think if there is a little incentive to do it, whether it's from a financial or from an environmental or from a moral conscious point of view, I think go for it. I think that's my advice. I think just I think that the financial challenges will be hard, but I wouldn't. I think that it would be a shame not to explore those avenues to get there.
That's great. Thank Maija. I mean, I think there's no more other questions. I'm talking about support. I think what Lauren's just going to put up a slide quickly just about the support that Circular Edinburgh offers. As I explained at the beginning, we are here to help circular economy projects and businesses. So we'll just go on just to the next one, Lauren. That's great. So just as I said, just to say what we offer. So we offer advice and support to help companies turn their waste into wealth. We also offer circular economy assessments, advice to help you develop a project. And I think also the key one is the networking and contacts. So for example, Lynn is actually one of our ambassadors. So any help and support, she's happy to have a connection with you. There's also referrals to the Circular Economy Business Support Service, which is consultancy support. Now that's closed at the moment to the new financial year, but there should be advice and support for that way. And also key also is about information on funding options. There's big funding pots, but there's also smaller funding pots. And also we just put connections and make introductions to help you and be part of our network. So just to let you know with the support that we offer. And Lauren will be in touch after the event, probably tomorrow, just to give you a copy of the recording and a copy of the speaker's contact details so you can get in touch, and as I said, to follow up if you want any meetings with us. I just want to, Lauren, can you just come out of sharing screen if that's okay? That'd be great, just so I can see everybody. I just want to first of all thank our speakers, to Lynn, to James, to Maija for their time today. Thank you all, also to our delegates for joining. I think we've had some really great discussions, and I think it's really important to be part of that network. And thanks to Lauren for arranging all the logistics and all the details and picking everybody on. So thanks for Lauren. And as I said, you know where we are. If you need any support, that is what we're here for. So I'm happy to support in any way, and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you again for your time.